Okay, so the best wood is going to be underneath cover like this down tree and off the ground. So this tree is down, it's dead, and this wood hasn't been saturated by the snow at all. And so this is probably our best bet for getting dry tinder and kindling. And so whenever you're looking for dry stuff, we're looking for wood that has a good dry snap to it. Even this dry wood is pretty wet because it's February, and so we've had quite a bit of snow and things are very damp around here. So this is why fire building in the winter is so challenging. Okay, so here's some wood here that's not under cover and it's laying off the ground. So it should be relatively dry as long as we haven't had a lot of precipitation lately or there hasn't been a lot of snow covering this lately. That's pretty dry. It's a little bit rotten right at the base, but it should be dry up here. So two tools I like for serious fire building are a tiny hatchet and a nice sharp saw. And I'll show you how I use both of these. So the saw is particularly nice when there's a lot of snow on the ground and you end up having to cut dead branches that are above the snow level. And especially for thick wood that you need as long-term fuel for your fire, a saw is much more efficient than a hatchet at hacking through things that are more than a couple inches in diameter. And then one advantage of a hatchet is being able to limb a log. So take the limbs off with just a few hatchet strokes. So one of the advantages of a saw is that it allows you to create a nice flat surface. So with a nice flat surface, you can then split wood. Now the advantage of being able to split wood is that it allows you to access the dry inner core, which is kind of a critical piece of winter fire building. In the summer, it's not a big deal because even the outer bark is dry. If you don't have a hatchet, you can use a stout knife to baton wood in order to split it, and that's what we'll do right now. Okay, so to baton wood, you need a knife that has a fairly thick backbone to it and a reasonably long blade. This one is about 3 inches, has a backbone that's about 3/16 of an inch wide. Take another piece of wood and just follow it all the way down. And that allows you, once again, to access the dry center of the wood core. Batoning is a great way to make dry tinder. Okay, so what I have here is my wood sorted into piles by various sizes. So I've got my dry tinder that I pulled out from underneath the log that was sitting above the ground. I've got some kindling that I've split by batoning with my knife. I've got some larger kindling that I've split with my hatchet. And then I've got some larger wood that I've cut with my saw. So we'll start off with fire starting and then proceed to add each wood size as we go. I've learned a few tricks about fire building in the winter, especially for very wet conditions. First, I build a lattice base using dry kindling. That keeps my tinder off the ground, and it enhances oxygen delivery to the tinder after I light it. Second, I've lost faith in most aftermarket fire starters. I use only magnesium sparkers and hydrophobic fire starting materials such as Tinder Quick. I think they're essential for fire starting in very wet conditions. I never rely on lighters or matches, even so-called storm matches. Third, I use a solid fuel tablet. It provides high temperatures for several minutes that helps ignite wet kindling if dry tinder isn't available. It can be a lifesaver when I don't have time to prepare dry kindling or there's none around. Fourth, I always add the driest, thinnest tinder I have available right after I start my fire. This ensures that I'll get a good hot flame that's ready to accept larger sized wood. Before adding my kindling, I'll make sure that my tinder pile has ignited well so that the flame is nice and hot. Otherwise, you risk overwhelming the fire and putting it out. And then it's just a matter of repeating the process, adding successively larger pieces of wood, allowing that wood to ignite and form a hot flame, and then finally adding larger fuel. Being patient in the winter is a critical component of successful fire building. As you can see, a knowledge of where to find dry wood, taking along one or two strategic tools, having good fire starting materials, and a healthy dose of patience. These are the elements of successful fire building in the winter, but the rewards are worth it. Warmth, cheer, and maybe even some lightweight fuel for cooking. I'm Ryan Jordan with Backpacking Light. Godspeed.